Hey everyone. So last week I did a video talking about my top 10 favourite Stephen King books. I was really happy with how that video has gone over. I'm glad that a lot of people were leaving comments letting me know what their favourite Stephen King books are. And overall I'm just really happy with that. Today we're going to be doing the complete opposite. I'm going to be talking about my top 5 least favourite Stephen King books. I was considering making this a top 10, but the books that are at the bottom of the list would still be books that I really like. That just shows how good of a writer Stephen King is. Even some of the ones down the bottom end of the ranking are books that I really enjoy. So I'm just going to make a top 5. Each one of these books are books that I'm not a huge fan of. I just can't really get into them. They just don't really gel with me. And yeah, there's not really that much else to say, but if you want to leave in the the comments, what your least favourite King books are, I'd be really happy to know. And anyway, let's just go ahead and get into it. So at number 5 on my list, we have From a Buick 8. Now this is an interesting book for King because he started writing this book before his car accident in 1999, and he finished writing it after his car accident, which basically means that the first half of this book is pretty good. And I definitely thought that. I when I first read it, I read 100, 150 pages, and I was like, this book is actually pretty good. I quite like it. It's like one of those ones that a lot of people don't talk about, and I was like, I'm actually enjoying this book quite a bit. But then you get to the second half of this book, and it becomes a real drag. This book has a very bizarre structure. It alternates from first person to third person, from the past to the present, and it alternates between different characters' perspectives. Like there's parts in the book, like towards the end, when it changes perspective every 10 pages. It'll jump back to the past from so-and-so character's perspective, then back to the future from another character's perspective, then back to the past from another character's perspective, then back to the future from another character's perspective, then stay in the future from another character, and it just gets really messy, gets really bogged down. A lot of the stuff that happens in the second half of the book is stuff that we've already seen in the first half of this book. It's quite a repetitive book. I'm not a fan of the overall structure, like the way it doesn't feel like it's a complete book. And I know that's the point, but it feels as though there's something missing. There's no beginning, there's no middle, and there's no ending to this book. It's just kind of one blob of writing that contains just a bunch of weird crap. Gets pretty repetitive. As I said, it's not bad by any means at all. I would give this book about 2.5 stars. But it's just where it sits. It's just not a very good book. It's not a very memorable book. It's fine. It has some moments, but it's a bit repetitive. It gets messy, and it has a very unsatisfactory ending. And I know that was the point. That's his whole point, is sometimes you don't get answers, but I don't think he handled it very well in this, because it's not a massive book, but it's a full novel. When you spend all that time just going through certain things just for it to kind of just end just suddenly, it's just a little bit... yeah, it's just not very memorable, I guess. And that's why at number 5 on my list, we have From a Buick 8. Now, at number 4 on my list, we have a book that shouldn't surprise many of you people. I don't think. It's Rage, and I'm very sorry. I don't have a standalone copy of this book, so I just got it in the bind up of the Parkman books, which you can... This old edition. It's a pretty nice edition, actually. I really like it. Anyway, Rage... it's the only Stephen King book that's out of print. It's got this reputation of being a super disturbing and just nasty book that inspired a bunch of people to do horrible things, which, yeah, I guess it technically kind of did. I'm not someone to make a comment on all that stuff, but what I actually got from this book was a really emo, really stupid, unengaging, just shitfest. Now, it's just really damn bad. This book, it's it's not even like, you know, a disturbing look into a killer's mind or anything like that. It's just it feels like an edgy emo teenager's wet dream. Like, Stephen King, he does so good, even in his supernatural books, at making you suspend your disbelief to actually get invested in the story. And there are so many supernatural Stephen King books that are scary and eat away at my head because of how well it's written. But this one, there's no supernatural elements in here. This book is being taken out of print because it's too closely related to real life events, and yet I still just cannot buy anything that happens in this book. It is so ridiculous, but it's not even in a fun way. It's just like you're reading it and you're just like, this is dumb. And yeah, I know it has a lot of problems. I don't like, but like in relations to real life events, I don't know, because like it has this reputation of being super dark and disturbing, and it's just one of the stupidest things that I've ever read. But as I said, it's not fun in a stupid way. You're spending time with this twat, and the way it paints him out to be, and it's, god damn it, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. If you know what happens, like you know, he shoots up the teachers and holds his classroom hostage, and the way he interacts with his peers, and the way they're starting to be like, oh well, we're very sorry. We're just like, what the fuck? It's not scary. It's suspenseful. Oh, I don't know. This is a really bad book. And by the way I'm talking about it, it makes it sound like it should be a lot lower on the list. But in this bind-up of the Bugman books, Rage is only 150 pages, so it doesn't take much effort at all to get through. And basically, it's just, it's bad. It has some funny moments. Like, at first you think, oh my god, this is going to be kind of just cringeworthy but hilarious, spending time with this emo douche. But it's not good. It's a bad book. Now, coming in at number 3 on my list. This is where the books go from being, so from Rebuke 8 was mediocre. It was fine, nothing special. Rage was bad, but easy enough to get through. It's not a challenging read. This is where the books for me start to get bad. And I mean bad. Like, Stephen King had a massive swing and a miss. Anyway, I'm going to stop beating around the bush for this one. Number 3, we have Lisey's Story. This book is one that is famous for being Stephen King's favourite book that he has ever written. What? Now, this edition I have, it looks small. It looks short, but the paper is so thin. Like, this book is... how fucking long is this thing? 683 pages. This is nearly 700 pages of just messy, boring horse shit. I don't like this book. I don't like it. So let's start off, like, the concept of this book is this woman, Lisey. Yeah, and it's pronounced Lisey, by the way, too. It literally has a pronunciation in the start of the book. I see so many people calling it Lizzie or Lisey, and like, it's fucking Lisey. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, Lisey, her husband was a famous writer, and he's just died, and she's kind of like reminiscing on the past and all these things that happened with her, and she it starts off with her like looking through all her old shit, and she keeps on going back to the past and thinking about all these things that happened, and it's just really, really dull. There's just moments in this book where I'm just like, I don't really know what to say about this book. It's so bizarre and it's so weird. But it's like not weird in a good way. It's weird in a boring way, and weird in a way that just doesn't work for me. Like, it's so much her thinking about the past, and then she'll snap back to the present, and it's really confusing because, like, you know, she's this is like in the past, she's speaking with Scott, her husband, and all of a sudden, like, a line of dialogue just comes out of nowhere, and like then it just goes back to the like her conversation with Scott, and that line of dialogue is actually her in the present trying to stop herself from thinking back to all these repressed memories. And then it's just like, it's confusing because you're like, wait, what the fuck is going on? I can't tell where we are in the story. And I get that's the point, is it's supposed to be disorientating and sweep you into other worlds and yada yada fucking data, but it doesn't work for me. There's these killers, kind of like robber guys that are just some of the worst villains that Stephen King has ever written. I don't even remember his fucking name. But they were so bad. They were so bad. I thought that could have been kind of an interesting thing, these kind of people coming in trying to find some of her husband's unpublished manuscripts, but they were just so pathetic. And then there's this weird fantasy magical world, which admittedly, the world building in that place is kind of interesting, but it's so stupid. Like, when it's working with the story, like, it's if you've ever seen M. Night Shyamalan's Lady in the Water, and you've got this really convoluted storyline with weird bedtime story, fairy tale worlds, and creatures from that world just coming into our world, and it's, if you've seen that movie, you know how stupid it is. That's like the closest I can compare this book to. It's just stupid. It's not funny stupid. It's just stupid. Like, and even the way, like, the memories, when she's thinking about it, they're supposedly repressed memories, but I don't understand why they'd be repressed. Like, how the fuck is she repressing these things and then just all of a sudden thinking about them again, and then, like, as though she's discovering new things that are going to help her survive these fucking pathetic killers, even though she already, like, I just don't understand it. I don't understand. Is that how the fucking mind works? She gets told stuff 20 years prior, she completely forgets it, and then she remembers it in the present and somehow uses it. It's so stupid. And then there's these backstories where, like, Scott is talking about his childhood and it makes no sense. Like, there's like bad gunky and bulls and just creature, and it's terrible. It is so awful. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But I've saved the best / worst to last. The dialogue in this book. This book has by far the worst dialogue I have ever read in a Stephen King book. In fact, one of the worst dialogues I've ever read in any book. The only book with worse dialogue than this one is The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and admittedly that book is in a whole other level of shit, but this dialogue, they have this stupid lovey-dovey made-up language, and every single time they say baby love, or like sawisa, or smucking, or just bull, bad gun, all that shit. I just wanted to throw this book across the room. They fucking think it's cute or something, talking to each other like childs. No, it's fucking annoying. And you have to learn all these words and what they actually mean, because they never really give you an explanation for it, and it's terrible. It's a really, really bad book. I don't think obviously I'll reread it sometime, but this book, it's super long, it's super boring, bad characters, it's just atrocious dialogue, just fuck me. There were times when I just had to put it down, because I was just shaking just with anger. I was thinking, they don't feel real, they feel super fucking contrived. I know, and just everything about this book just doesn't work. It's really, really bad. I mean, really, really, really bad. Fuck this book. I'm sorry for rambling on that one a bit, but this book is so sprawling and makes no sense, and I'm just trying to cover everything that comes to my head just about this book. It's just terrible. Number 2 on my list, we've got an interesting one. It's another Richard Buckman book, and again, it's from the Buckman Books bind up, and I'm sorry that I don't have an actual copy of it, because it's just, I don't know, I don't really want to spend any money on this book. Anyway, it's Roadwork. Let's show you that it's Roadwork. See, it's Roadwork right there. Yeah, that's it. God, this book. There's... Where do I even start with this one? Now, I know there are people that like this book. And yes, I know that there are elements of this book that are good. And I want to like it. Because I see Jake from Bookish Drummer talking about this book. And he's so passionate about it and how good it is and how underrated it is. And I'm like... This book pisses me off because there are sprinkles of things that could be so good about it. And when he's talking about that stuff, I can like, yes, there's elements of a good book here. There's elements of a good story. And I just wish those elements like just all came together to make one incredible character study of just this man's life falling apart. This could be such an interesting book. And that's why it's so low down on my list, is because the amount of glimmers of hope that it shows. The amount of just moments where you're just like thinking, wow, this is actually really, really interesting. Oh my god. Just the execution of this book, at least for me, I know Jake likes it a lot, and I'm glad that he does, because I think there is a lot to like about this book. But oh my god, man, the execution just fucking fumbled. Like, this is like 350 page book in here, and like, you know, this has got tiny little print. Oh, I just so badly wish that, oh my god. So basically, the overall concept and the hook is super strong. You've got this guy who is being evicted from his house because they're trying to build a new highway through there, and the highway's also gonna go through the laundry plant that he works at. And he obviously doesn't want that to happen. And in doing so, he basically just starts to kind of lose his mind, and it's just kind of a day-by-day thing of him and his wife trying to deal with it, and you slowly learn things about him and why he doesn't want to leave the house, and why, like, you know, all this means so much to him and stuff like that. And it's such an interesting hook because it could have been so well done. Like, in Stephen King's hands, it could be great. And just the hook of it is amazing. Just imagine just watching this guy just slowly tear his own life apart because he doesn't want to change and he doesn't want to leave just devastating bits of his life behind. And it just all culminates in just one big battle, which, admittedly, the climax of this book is so good. It's so well done. And I'm talking so much good about this book because there is so much to like. But this book is 350 pages. If it had been a 50-page novella, a 100-page novella, this could be one of the best things he's ever written. This guy, amongst all this interesting character growth, he goes to a fucking restaurant and sits there and eats food. And it takes forever. He goes and like meets all these weird criminals and stuff like that and hangs out with them, and then he picks up like a hitchhiker and then he fucks the hitchhiker, and it's just so boring. So boring. And I just don't understand why any of that stuff had to be there. I understand, yes, the stuff with the criminals and stuff like that, like, yeah, it kind of plays a big part later on, but at first, it just takes forever to have anything to do. And that, all those segments could have been like, you know, 10, 15 page segments. Instead, they're like fucking 50 to 100 page segments of just nothing. And even hanging around him, like, the way it paints the main character out to be, like, he's a really bland I can't even remember his name, but he's really bland, and he's painted out to be sympathetic. I would have much rather just be watching this guy just slowly lose his mind, rather than being kind of like forced to empathize with him, because some terrible things have happened to him. Of course you want to empathize with him, but the book, he does so many stupid things, but the book paints you out as though you're supposed to, like, you know, be with him and want to be and want to like him. But oh god, like it just doesn't work for me. It just really doesn't work. And by the end of it, I'm just pissed off because there's so many good just flashes of this book. And admittedly, I do need to reread this one and maybe see if I change my mind, but holy fuck, could this have been just so much better? Anyway, I shouldn't be too harsh because at the number one spot, if you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know what's going to be at number one. I can't be too harsh on this book because it is nothing compared to my number one spot. And I mean that. This book is a masterpiece compared to the number one spot. So let's get into it. And now, at number one on my top 5 worst Stephen King books, if you've seen, I've done a review on it. If you know, like you probably know what it is if you're familiar with my channel or me at all. Can we just take a deep breath because like seriously, I don't want to talk about this book right now. I really don't. It's The Talisman, co-written with Peter Straub. Oh, you want a bad book? Like, this is a fucking terrible book. It is huge. It is fucking massive. It's like 1,000 pages, and it's bad. Like, it is an actual bad book. Like, from a Buick 8, mid. Lacey's story is bad, like, very bad. Roadwork is extremely bad, but I probably like it a little bit more than Lacey's story overall, except for the fact that it's kind of teasing me on the good parts. This book is just a fucking travesty. Like, there's next to nothing that I like about this book. The literal only thing that I can say that I like about this book is one of the characters, and even then, that character is very brief, very minor, only probably like, you know, has about this much pages of time in it, and it's just I'm gonna try not to say too much because this book is just atrocious. The characters, aside from that one that I like, are terrible. Jack Sawyer is an annoying little shit. Richard Sloat can... Let's not talk about Richard, actually, because I got very, very heated in that review that I did about him. The plot is super stupid. Okay, so the plot of this book, I'm going to tell you right now, is about a boy who has to travel into a parallel universe and travel across America in this parallel universe to find a mysterious talisman that will hopefully save his mother from dying of cancer. So he starts on one side of America, flips into this alternate world, the territories, and starts his journey across America to this place called, I think it was the Black Hotel or something like that. What I don't understand is why any of that had to happen at all. Could he have not just taken a bus across America and then flipped into the territories, grabbed the talisman, and gone back to try to save his mum? Why did he have to set out on foot across America? That is the dumbest fucking thing I've... Like, how did... Like, I haven't read any other Peter Straub's work, so I can't tell. I'm not going to judge him solely off of this, but Stephen King, that is such a stupid fucking oversight. What the fuck? What? I just can't believe they didn't think of that. Why did any of this book have to happen if you could have just gone across America, flipped and got it and just went back instead of going through like this fucking alternate world and just hung out there and did jack shit for 900 pages? Oh my god. It is just crazily stupid. It is such a damn dumb oversight. And because of that, you're reading this 1,000-page book and you think, this book could have been over in 50 pages. And the whole time that you're reading it, you're just like, why does any of this need to happen? And, you know, I wouldn't mind so much if the contents of this book were actually good. But it's not. It's a boring journey underdeveloped and annoying characters, an underdeveloped world, like alternate reality, which just gives you no sense of, like, you know, just being sent to this magical world that just sweeps you away at all. And everything that happens just feels so pointless. And the characters are infuriating. They make stupid decisions that it's just so bad. And followed off with a super predictable ending. Like, there's nothing about, like, this ending. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just so... Like, I was like 100 pages in, and I was like, oh, this is probably what's going to happen. And I get there, I'm just like, that happened. So why did I waste my fucking time with this? And why do I need to waste my fucking time if it's just one big plot hole? This whole book is one big plot hole that shouldn't exist. This book should be banned. It shouldn't exist. It's stupid. I don't like it. Fuck off. Do you know, like, maybe not the worst part, but just it's a big fucking slap over the face. Is it Stephen King and Peter Straub wrote a fucking sequel? And this one, it's 800 pages. It's not quite as long as the but oh my god, this is so daunting. I haven't started this book yet, but I read like the first 5 pages, like when I first just picked it up at a used bookstore, and I was just like, oh my god. Like, the feeling of dread that just ensued, because, like, I'm a completionist. I have to read every Stephen King book, and I'm going to have to get around to this one sometime, and I'm just like, I can't believe I'm actually going to do this one someday. Oh. And it's supposed to be a trilogy too, but I'm pretty sure Peter Straub has said that's not going to happen, which is good. I don't want to read this book. And I certainly don't want to read The Talisman ever again. This book is one of my least favourite books ever. I think, like, The Road by Cormac McCarthy might be one of the worst that I've ever read. This might be, like, second worst. Like, I just can't believe that there's a sequel. I just cannot. But yeah, I've got this book. I've put it out of my mind. I'm just going to pretend it doesn't exist because it's so fucking long. Wow. Anyway, that is my list on the top 5 worst Stephen King books. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to let me know what your least favourite Stephen King books are, and hey, if there's any books down here that you do like, then please let me know, because I'm very interested to hear why. I wasn't meaning to go off about The Talisman again, but I can't help myself. I'm sorry. I hate it. Anyways, I'll see you all later for next week's video about ranking every single Stephen King book I've read from worst to best. So all 50. So obviously you know my top 10, you know my bottom 5, but you'll get to see where everything in between sits. And I'm really excited to share that with you. So I'll see you then. Bye.